Yeah, so
Right.
so I was, but
I thought maybe like you paved your way through because of that. During my internship, a lot of people just ended up serving coffee.
no,
So
spent about a year trying to design this house,
retaining
that part. The entire house is going off. We're designing a new house. It's like, what? Dude, we spent a fucking...
Hello and welcome to Brutalism and Bananas. I'm Neelanjana, and with me here today is Nithin Kotemane of Arcadia Design and Constructions. So this firm is based out of Mysore, correct?
Yes.
So Nithin, you are my senior from college, and you've been doing this for the last 10 years, pretty much.
Pretty much 9 years.
How does it
Practicing
feel?
since 9 years. Feels good.
Feels good.
Yeah. To set up your practice in your hometown, where you're born and brought up, and settle up here. And just when architecture as a field was taking up here in Mysore, I felt
As a
that was,
boom.
as a boom, for architects being taken seriously as designers to be considered to design anyone's space. That was the period between, say, 2017, 18. Then it's when it picked up.
So you are quite glad to have gotten in at
Yes,
the right time.
Exactly. It was at the right time, is what I feel now. Because now there's a lot of competition. Back then, when I started practice, I think there were hardly about 50 to 60 architects practicing in Mysore. And today, there are more than 150 architects. An architect's job was, according to people who I came across, was only to design the elevation. Like, we have a plan. Can you do the elevation for us? This was the kind of response what I used to get.
I still do that.
Even now, sometimes we get, but now at least we have reached a stage where we can say, no, we don't do that.
Okay.
And we spend a little extra 2 minutes or 5 minutes with that person who has walked in to explain what we do exactly and what is the role of an architect. It's not just to beautify your facade. It's to beautify your inner spaces where it kind of uplifts your lifestyle.
So in terms of structure and how permanent or not it is.
It's about 50-50.
Yeah.
So we had a small agenda where people passing by should get this small inquisitiveness as to what is happening inside. That's where this perforated wall came in this direction and the other direction, since it's a corner property. Yes, it did work actually. A lot of people started coming in, they need not be our clients by the end of the day. They were like, what is this space? It's kind of new and different for this entire street or the neighborhood. So it kind of helped us a lot to advertise in such a way that this became a landmark.
So then would you say that the idea that you kind of had and what you did to sort of bring it about was
Yes.
kind of successful in that way?
It was. It has actually made a huge impact in that way. So when this started becoming landmark, is when we were still designing our branding. The name was fixed. Arcadia was decided long back. But the logo and the branding of it, we consulted a friend of ours, happens to be a friend of yours too.
Yes.
Shivani, your classmate. Now she's doing her designing with branding and
Yeah, so she's completely switched over. and
exactly.
She's into branding now. So
we
which is
consulted-
an alternate career in case you're considering.
Yes. And when we consulted her to design the logo and everything, the term landmark, how we were trying to explain, how I'm explaining you, Abdulla and his brother sat to give out the brief about how the whole space came in. In between, they used the term, yes, this space has become a landmark here on the street. She took that term very seriously. So she had an explanation to the logo, what she came up with, which is 3 stones stacked up. Is how in our ancient days, a landmark was marked up, as in when people used to move from one place to other
Right.
on foot. So people used to create these landmarks. They used to stack up this stone like, yeah, someone has passed through, or this was the path that they have taken to come back in the same path or something like that. So she took up that particular idea as an inspiration, and she came up with 3 stacking stones as our logo, which is perfect for us. So creating a landmark, not just with this space here as a studio, with every design that we do for our clients, for their respective properties, we hope that that becomes a landmark on that particular location or that particular neighborhood.
So what kind of projects are you currently doing?
We are into residential primarily. We also do commercials, and we are slowly taking up only interior projects as well. Initially, we were not so much into that because it's not so comfortable to go and design something into someone else's designed space. Like it wasn't so easy for us in the initial days when we were still a newcomer. Now, as and when we are experiencing on a daily basis with different spaces, yes, you have to broaden our practicing spectrum and everything. So we are taking up interior projects now
as well. Okay.
As well.
You worked with Praveen Bavadekar in Belgaum.
Yes.
And this firm is called
Thirdspace Architecture Studio.
Correct. So how did you find this firm, and was it your first choice?
There is an alumni group called MASA, Malnad Architecture Students. So they have this practice of inviting architects from all over India for their monthly talks and annual talks and everything. So one of these talks, there was this architect called Praveen Bavadekar. He has practice in Belgaum called Thirdspace Architecture Studio. So he had presented there, and he had presented about one of his projects, which was Gangubai Hangal Gurukul in Hubli.
Okay.
So this was, he won this project through a competition. It was a government-funded project. So that was presented in this monthly talk hosted by MASA. And we happened to see, go for that. That was inspiring, first place. Second, when my batch was heading NASA, that was Architecture Students Association, national-wise, we took up that particular project for the analysis trophy. It was called Nari Gandhi back then. I don't know what it's called now. So for analysis trophy, we took up that particular project.
So you're very inspired by his work.
That's how I was exposed to his works, his ideology, his designing language and everything. And we happened to go and meet him when we went for the site visit of this particular project. Studio was nice. He was, as an architect, how he started to explain about his project.
His interaction,
how much it meant, that particular project meant to him.
Correct.
In spite of it being a couple of years already.
Yeah.
How he was still holding it like, oh, that's my project. I designed it. How he was so that kind of gave me a confidence like, yes, this is a nice space to work with. Nice person to work with, nice space to be in.
So is it because you already went and approached him for Nari Gandhi?
I don't think he remembered that.
Okay.
But
I thought maybe you paved your way through because of that.
I hope not. I hope my portfolio was good enough for him to consider me in. Well, yeah, I was lucky enough to get in there. So
how big is the office?
So at that point, he was the only principal architect, and he didn't have any design partner or anyone or associate. He had 3 junior architects, 1 interior designer, and a project manager. And that tenure, it was 2 interns. One was me, and there was another girl from Belgaum.
Okay.
She was studying in the Belgaum College. I forgot the name. KLS GIT. So she was studying there. So only 2 interns.
Okay.
So that was the size of studio at that point.
So what was your scope of work like? Because during my internship, a lot of people just ended up serving coffee.
No.
So what was your experience?
I think I was really blessed with that.
I mean, I served much more, but okay.
for about first 2 days, I was just going through all the files in the office to get to know about their design language or drawing styles and detailing how much they do it, and to understand their working drawings, because every office does a different way of working drawings. No one follows the same method, whatever we learn in college. So then design language, material selections, kind of materials they opt for, kind of materials they don't opt for. I had to just go through all of these things in the first 2 days. He gave me a 1 week time, but in those first 3 days, I kind of got a hang of all of these. So on the third day, he gave me a project where it was an ongoing project. We had to the facade has to be fine-tuned a little more. So the form of the house, not the facade, the form of the house on all four sides, to be frank. There's come up with some options for this.
Okay.
So that was his way of to understand what I'm capable of doing, rather than just giving take this drawing, do a SketchUp model for this, or do a working drawing for this, or do some rendering for this. It was come up with a form, come up with the design for this. So about 3 days I worked on it. He didn't come and check what I'm doing, nothing. So on Saturday, we kind of he came okay, what have you been doing this entire week? I want to check. So, and that time we were all still working on desktops. No? So I moved around. He came and sat on my chair. He was going through everything. It's okay, there is potential, fine, I can do it. Then he started sketching, do this. Started giving me more ideas about why a particular form doesn't work, or a window in that place doesn't work, how everything is correlating to internal space to your external space, and what's happening with your neighbor's house, what are you overlooking into. All these kind of conversations came in. So next day, he asked one of our colleagues to take me to the site, just show him what is happening there. But then it came Monday, and then he's chalo, I'll only come with you. Even he had not been to the site in a couple of weeks. Chalo, let's go have a look at things, what is happening. So it was still under construction. We went, saw everything. I was okay, yeah, whatever he said made sense. Because at the positions wherever I had kept the windows or slit windows or fixed glass windows and everything, it was kind of overlooking to the neighbor's space. Now that's not comfortable. So the whole scenario changed now with the designing. And so we came back onto the drawing board, started designing again. There was one aspect which kind of interested, where I took up a step ahead and started designing in that way, was the parking was a cellar entry. And the whole living room was lifted up by 4 feet from the ground.
To make way for the... Yeah.
But one thing most of the guys had not looked at, it kind of overlooked, was the structural member, a beam drop was coming in there. In our drawings, that was not seen, not in the SketchUp model. So what I did was, I did a section through that house, that was the first section ever done for that particular project. All the other projects, they have sections and elevations drafted out. So that project, there was no sections done. So I did a section through that, where I am trying to show the roofline of a SUV and a sedan, how it works, roofline and the bottom part.
Oh, bottom of the beam.
Bottom of the ramp, the car is scraping through. If this has to happen, the slope had to be increased and everything. He was impressed with that. It's none of us looked into this. We all thought the car is going to go inside now. So there, it kind of I was...
That's where you made your mark.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Then he started giving me more design problems. Work on this, work on that, So for about first 2 months, I was not doing any working drawings or toilet details, which was a trend, no?
Yeah.
Everyone is talking internship, you're only doing sitting and doing toilet details, or you're doing working drawings, or you're sitting and doing SketchUp models
for a long time.
Yeah, for a long time. So, and a couple of my classmates who were working in other cities, they are sitting and complaining about that. I'm just doing this. I'm
just designing a door for the last 2 weeks.
I'm sitting and designing houses here. I'm not doing that. I'm detailing out interiors here. I'm going for site visits. They're like, we have not been to site visits since a month. I'm like, I'm going for site visits. I was exposed that way. So from a small 3 BHK unit to an apartment, I was exposed to all kind of projects. And to design a new farmhouse, from scratch. I was directly involved in the project, and I was directly under the principal architect. I was not under any junior architect or senior architect in the office. I'm addressing to them, and they're addressing it to senior principal architect. No.
So you had a very first
and I'm having first-hand experience directly meeting with the client and taking out the requirements, understanding that, which not many of my classmates in that time period were exposed to. And that kind of interaction with the principal architect and the rest of the designers, project manager was kind of guiding me what kind of drawings are supposed to be released to site, what kind of drawings are understood or read easily
on site. And
yes, not like everything to be with minute details, everything to be given out. What scale of print has to be given out? That was explained more by the project manager.
So let's transition now between your internship and to when you started your own practice. Was it immediately or you worked somewhere else as well?
I worked for about 9 months with a professor of ours, Archana ma'am, you know her. So she had her own small practice here in Mysore. So I was working for her. But I was working from her. She didn't have a studio space or anything.
Right.
So she was freelancing kind of a thing.
Okay.
So I was working for her from my own space. So if there were any client meeting, I used to go for the meetings, or for any discussion with ma'am regarding designs. I used to go to her place, discuss, come back to my space, and I used to work from there. And when the project went on site, I was the primary person on site to handle things,
all the drawings and stuff,
starting from the set of drawings that has to go on site in first place for the contractor to understand everything and give a quotation to the client and everything, quantification, working drawings, all the details, everything was given out, elevations. Here in Mysore, the working style was different, unlike how it was in Belgaum for me. So
gave you an idea of what to brace for.
Exactly.
How have you taken your experiences from, say, Praveen Bavadekar and what you learned with Archana ma'am, and how you sort of brought that into your own practice now? Is there a continuation of sorts, or are they completely separate experiences?
I would say what happened during my internship has been carried to my practice, my personal practice.
Okay.
It didn't take over, there was not much influence of that when I was working with Archana ma'am, because she had her own different style of working.
Right.
The design language was
because
different.
you were more into execution.
Not really. I was also designing with her. It was not that. Even she did let me design things. But the design style or the design language what she used to follow, it was totally different. It was totally different. It was nowhere close to what I experienced with my internship with Praveen sir and everything. But the design language and the design style, what happened there during internship, that kind of got carried forward to my personal practice, when I started my practice in 2016. So there was one statement by Praveen sir, was that, listen, when I design something, it should be such a way that after 10 years, if I go back and if I drive by in front of that particular project, who was with me, I should be able to say that I designed this. I shouldn't be just hiding my face and walking past it because it is outdated or something. It should age in such a way that even after 10 years, it looks fresh, it's timeless, people are accepting it, and it is still to the new, every 5 years, every person changes his lifestyle. That particular space, what you have designed, it should be catering to that particular change in lifestyle for that particular occupant. So
and it's not like you're catering to a trend.
Yeah, exactly. He was never behind any trend. That is when I was trying to mention about the kind of materials that they use and they not use.
Yeah. The confidence that you got from Praveen Bavadekar helped you sort of set up your firm much, much earlier than the others, contemporaries of yours, I guess.
True. Yes, it did. It did.
Right.
It made a lot of difference for me. Got a confidence that whatever I was designing as an intern there, it was practical enough to be executed on site.
Right.
And another idea that I had, or the reasoning I had to set up my practice in initial day was, say, for example, I go out to some other city to work under some architect for a couple of years. And by end of the day, I'm coming back to Mysore. That was my last stop.
That was what you were going to do.
That was my last stop always for me. Like, I'm going to set up my practice here. I'm going to be living my rest of my life here. So now, for example, I move out to some other city, work there for 3 years or 4 years, and I come back and I'm again starting from zero in this city.
Right.
I'm nobody here. So
You didn't want to be in that place.
So I started calculating in such a way that at that point I was 23. I'll be spending about good 4 years somewhere else. So 27, I'm going to come back, start from zero again. I might as well start from, at 23 only, I might as well start from zero. Because I had my parents to back me up with finances. So I didn't have to take care of someone, family or anything. So took up that chance.
What advice would you give to young architects who've just graduated, just trying to start out on their own? Do you think they should, or should they work with somebody at least for a few years?
Work with someone for a year or two at least. Reason being is, at least it's a free training for you again.
And you're allowed to make mistakes.
You're allowed to make mistakes.
Not on your head.
Exactly. So, I mean, you get a lot of practical knowledge through that. What can be done, what cannot be done, how to handle your business. And that's very important to anyone to start their practice.
Right.
How to run this business. This is a business. How to run that. That's something that you got to take a backseat and sit and observe how an office work functions. What's the timeline that you're taking to, when the project comes in,
to when it gets executed,
when it executed,
finishes.
And you got to observe how the clients are going to react.
Yes.
When it gets delayed, when it is.
And how it makes sense financially also.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
If a project goes on for way too long, it might not make sense for you financially.
It definitely doesn't.
Right.
To come up with where to procure your materials, what kind of materials to choose for a particular project. And because that's going to kind of dictate you with to fit within your budget.
Correct.
Until then, you never had an exposure for any budget for any project that you have been designing in your entire life, be it during internship or college or any other time. You were not exposed to the concept of the budget.
Right.
There is financial involvement in this. So when you are working with someone, the kind of designs that you're trying to propose, or the kind of materials that you're trying to propose to be used,
to the practicality of it,
exactly,
comes in through experience that you gain after college.
Yes.
Okay, so coming to our closing session of this episode.
Yes.
As you know, the podcast is called Brutalism and Bananas. And the bananas part is essentially an anecdote. Might have been during your internship, might have been during your own practice, that basically made you go bananas. Is there a story like that you'd like to share with us?
When we initially set up this office, like how I said, we had walk-in clients. So one fine boy walked in, was like, I have a project, can you guys design? I have an old house that has to be renovated. I'm like, okay, renovation, fine. So we took up, started designing, we did the measure drawing, everything, started designing. There were a few structural issues with the house which we can't, we have to pull it down. We said, okay, let us pull down so much of the house and rebuild this. And the rest of the portion, we're renovating it. Okay, accepted. Then few other things happened on his end. Get delayed. Finally, the day came when the house has to be demolished, the part which has to be removed. We removed it. His mother came on site. It's like, this is a huge plot, okay? It's about 110 by 160. There's a small house in between. So we pulled down half the house, and she was like, sir, how much are you saving by retaining this much house? Like, ma'am, easily about 30 lakhs with the civil part. She looked at the son. Get it demolished, man. Get it removed. Like, what are you doing with this part? That's also old house only. Build a new one totally. What's wrong with you? We're like, we spent about a year trying to design this house.
Retaining
that part. Then the son was like...
Oh, who was paying for it?
Son.
Okay.
Exactly. Son was like, let's go shoot up my budget. I was like, hey, yes, Esra. I'm like, okay. Then came back to the studio, told Abdullah, I was like, dude, the entire house is going off. We're designing a new house. He's like, what? Dude, we spent a fucking year for this.
Yeah.
Then again, started from scratch. Took almost again another year to design the new house for his requirement.
What about design fees?
Remained the same.
Oh, that's bananas.
I mean, come on, it happens.
So anyway, thank you for joining us on Brutalism and Bananas. This was a fun session.
Thank you for inviting.
And I hope our audience takes away quite a bit from this episode.
I don't know how much I was helpful with that. Yeah, hope so.
Thanks, Nithin.